I am extremely honored and privileged to be able to introduce this individual. He's courageous, a true visionary, and he has a ton of patience. I don't know how he does it. I have great respect and admiration for him, not because of the position that he holds, but for the man that he is. Everyone, please put your hands together and welcome the Superintendent of Attica Correctional Facility, Superintendent Nowak.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I am Joe Noth. I'm the Superintendent of the Attica Correctional Facility. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Attica TEDx event. An event such as this has never been done in this facility. It's the first time, it's never been attempted. A lot of work went into it. Today, I'm pretty confident with the presenters, you're going to experience a lot of emotions. You're going to laugh, and some of you may cry. Some of the presenters are definitely going to make you think. The staff and people incarcerated here did a lot of work to showcase this awesome facility. I hope you all have a great day. Please enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, Superintendent. So officially, good morning. I know we can do a lot better than that. We got a room full of people. This is TEDxAttica. We're making history today. So I need a little more excitement, a little more energy. So let's try this again. Good morning. Good morning. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. For a minute, I was thinking we had a couple people in here sleeping already. Keep in mind, we are in prison, so even if you're sleeping, you got to keep one eye open. Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Bro?
Hey, how you doing, man? What you doing up here?
Hey, what you doing out here, man?
I'm doing the MC thing right now.
Oh, that's right now? Oh, yo,
Yeah.
matter of fact, congratulations on that,
Thank you,
bro.
I appreciate that.
Congrats, bro.
Thank you, thank you.
Yo, it's a lot of interesting people in here today.
Yeah, it definitely is. But listen, I appreciate y'all coming up here. But
Former governor
keep this
of
thing
Virginia,
rolling.
Mr. Terry McAuliffe. I think I seen the Novograd sisters in here.
Oh, there go Don Freeman.
Hey, bro, why you so excited to see her for,
Yeah,
bro?
you're a little too excited about that
Why
one.
wouldn't I be excited? Her company hires the formerly incarcerated.
Oh, hey,
That is
hey,
true.
dog.
That is true. That is true. Well, listen, I appreciate the love, but I need y'all to get out of here so we can keep this thing rolling, man. I
Why you trying to
appreciate
kick
it.
somebody out.
You changed, man. You changed.
Hey,
Forgive me, man. Forgive me. These guys, man. I see what I can do, man. I see what I can do.
Oh, I'm going.
Ms. Freeman, he want to know, can you get him a job? He going to need a job when he get out. You can't take people nowhere, I'm telling you, you can't. But I want to first start off by saying, I'm a little nervous today, but not for reasons why you might think. I'm not nervous because I have to stand up here and talk in front of everyone. I'm cool with that. I'm nervous because with being given this task comes the responsibility of making administration look good. Now, if I happen to fail in that, there's a good possibility that I'll be the first New York State prisoner sent to Siberia. And I'm not saying that anything is wrong with Siberia, but that's a long way from Buffalo, New York. Matter of fact, Superintendent, I'm doing good so far, I'm good? So far, so good. Okay, good. That helps me out a little bit. But I'm sure some of our guests in the audience today are a little nervous as well, but for more obvious reasons. Some have never been in a correctional facility before, let alone a room full of incarcerated men. Every door and gate you go through, it slams and locks behind you, but nothing could be more obvious than that giant wall that separates one part of humanity from the other. See, walls, they're a little tricky. In its intended position, a wall is there to prevent people or things from seeing or getting to the other side, a barrier. But that same wall, if used taken and placed it sideways, in turn could become a bridge, connecting people, places, things, and ideas that otherwise would not nor could not be connected. So in essence today, you guests crossed a bridge that has connected you to people you may have never known, stories you may have never been able to hear, and ideas you may have never been made aware of. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, you do not need to see the top of the stairs to take the first step. Crossing that bridge today, that was the first step. Transform, pioneer. These two words embody why we are having this event here today. Transform the perceptions and beliefs of individuals in a community. Pioneer, With the sharing of ideas, these are steps towards a new horizon with endless possibilities. Now, I'm sure many may have thought today's event would be impossible. So to have done it impossible, it took a collaborative effort. So we first want to thank Ms. Delia Cohen and the TEDx family. Governor Cuomo, Commissioner Nucci, for your approval and support. Definitely. Superintendent Nowak, Deb Clinton, and the entire administration and staff here at the facility who provided a tremendous amount of support and encouragement, and it was greatly, greatly appreciated. Also to our TEDxAttica organizing team, which consisted of 10 resident ambassadors, along with someone who we call Mac. Officer Makowitz, great man over there. We overcame many challenges, and like any family, we did not always see eye to eye. But the time that we was able to share created memories that will last us all a lifetime. And lastly, to our guests here today, thank you for clearing out your busy schedules, those that have traveled from near and from far, and even those of you who just want to see what it would be like in prison for a day. Your presence here today is greatly appreciated. Also, I want to encourage everyone throughout the day to go around and mingle, have conversations, get to know people better. It's great for us to be here for the purpose of this event, but it's magical when we're able to share our experiences and stories with one another. We have incarcerated guests here today, civilian staff guests here, as well as security staff. Find somebody you don't know and begin talking with them. Matter of fact, if we could for a moment, just kind of introduce yourself to your neighbors. Whoever you're sitting with, just say hello. Even if you know them, greet them again. You can never... Beautiful, good. That's good, everybody comfortable. That's what I want to see. Beautiful. And when we get another break or we get another opportunity, let's be sure to resume and continue these conversations later on and watch the magic happen. So we have a great event in store for everyone here today. So we're going to ask you to sit back, relax, open your minds, and enjoy the journey. So our first presenters are part of the Youth Mentorship Program here at the Attica Correctional Facility, a program that I have been a part of as well for the last 13 and a half years. We primarily work with at-risk youth, but we also work with the community in ways to help prevent them from needing this program or worse, becoming incarcerated. We've donated to the Buffalo Field a Backpack organization, an organization that provides school supplies for students who otherwise would not be able to obtain them. We've also donated to the Roswell Park Cancer Institute's Courage for College Fund, which directly supports pediatric care research, as well as year-round support programs at Roswell. This program has been instrumental in my growth as an individual, as well as a father. And I truly believe that I have received more from this program than I can ever give to it. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Donovan Jackson, Jemar Kelley, Officer Nowak, and our honorary Youth Ascension member, Peggy Vance.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
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 To start, Officer Nowak, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
On the east side of Buffalo.
And how long have you been working in Attica?
26 years.
And why did you want to get into corrections?
Well, living on the east side of Buffalo, there was a lot of crime, violence, drugs. I wasn't going to let the streets swallow me up. So I chose to make a career. That's when I came to corrections.
And why are you standing on this stage with two incarcerated men?
Well, me being as a leader, one of the leaders of the YEP program, Youth Assistance Program, these guys are one of my mentors for the program. So I have a lot of respect for these two guys because they work with the youth.
And is it normal for corrections officers and incarcerated men to work together?
No.
No. Okay. Jemar,
Yes.
how long have you been at Attica, and can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen?
I've been at Attica for 12 years, and through my time here, I see a lot of different individuals come in these walls who tend to be young adults that should be in college instead of in the penitentiary. And I feel that in some way, somehow, we should be able to do something about that.
Thank you. And Donovan, how does it feel to work with corrections officers?
Nowak's part of the team. We're effective together in reaching the youth.
And Officer Nowak, how can Jemar and Donovan be examples and role models for the youth today?
Well, you know what? Let them tell you.
I'm identified as 05B 1637. I've been charged and convicted of murder in the second degree, attempt murder, and 8 counts of criminal possession of a weapon, for which I was sentenced to 50 years to life. And I currently serve 16 years of that sentence. It's ironic that Officer Nowak mentioned something about respect, because besides the various charges I was convicted of, respect, or the lack thereof, is the underlying reason why I'm here. Growing up on the east side of Buffalo, I stayed with my mother and stepfather where no respect existed between us. As a result of fighting quite often, I moved out at the age of 13 to go live with my aunt. In doing so, I quickly realized that I became a financial burden on her as she struggled to take care of me and my cousins. This is why at 14, I decided to use the money that my mother had given me for school sneakers to buy drugs, with the hopes of making more money to help out. Now, this was one of the biggest mistakes of my life, because I became a part of the streets and all the different crimes and random acts of violence that comes along with living that life. It was during my junior year of high school that I found myself serving a sentence of 4.5 years for attempted murder. For some reason, being violent and serving time causes people on the street to either fear you or respect you. By the time I was released, I earned the reputation of being both. Under the seduction of such foolish ideology, I became more violent, committed more crimes, and as a result of doing so, here I am, 42 years old, and I was sentenced to serve more time in prison than I've been alive. While serving this 50 to life sentence, I could probably think of 50 excuses on how I ended up in prison. But I choose not to do so. I realized that ultimately, it was my poor decision-making that decided my fate. I now understand that I must make better decisions in order to ensure myself of a better destiny. One of the better decisions I made since my incarceration has been joining this youth mentorship program. I chose to do so because I wanted to have a positive impact in the lives of our youth, as they'll always be my primary objective. However, never did I expect this program or the youth to have just as much of a positive effect on my life as I intended to have on theirs. You learn so much from working besides the youth. With still much room for improvement, I already have become a much better father to my 2 ambitious daughters. They are both enrolled in college. Investing in their futures, determined to make something of themselves, despite my previous shortcomings. Playing a role in their success is what brings me so much joy. Similar to the joy that I receive from playing a small role in the lives of our youth, knowing that it propels them to go on and do such amazing things.
The one thing about prison you must know, there are lines drawn between the people who work here and those who reside here. However, those lines cease to exist as we work together for one common goal: to deter at-risk youth from coming to prison. One way we're able to effectively accomplish this is by showing the youth the parallel between Officer Nowak and Jemar. For instance, they're both of a similar age, grew up on the east side of Buffalo, and both were surrounded by the negative influences of drugs, crime, and violence. Why is it that one has a badge number while the other has a department identification number? It simply boils down to the choices they made. Sadly, many of the young adults who attend our program are making some of the same poor choices that landed my team and I in prison. It is extremely important that we help them improve their decision-making so they can avoid growing up in prison. I want to be clear, we're not a scared straight program, for which I'm grateful of, because as my teenage daughters point out to me regularly, I'm not the least bit intimidating. We believe in education, not intimidation. It's cool because it's our personal experiences we use to reach the youth and convey the message that negative behavior leads to negative consequences. More importantly, we offer them positive alternatives to their negative lifestyles and inform them despite a person's ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic background, no one's exempt from coming to prison, or else this preacher's only son who grew up in the suburbs of Rochester wouldn't be speaking with them. The awesome sauce of our program is it's completely voluntary, for Officer Nowak as well. There are no accolades, nor do my team and I receive any time off our sentences for our contributions to our community's youth. For many of us, we are fathers, sons, or brothers, and we believe that positively influencing the life of a child is more than enough payment. Although our sessions with these young adults are insightful, impactful, and powerful, we've noticed a major decline in group attendance over the past 5 years for two reasons. First being, one's legal, the other's financial. First being an unintended side effect of the newly enacted Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Act, which prohibits minors who have had any contact with the criminal justice system from entering a prison. Second, due to a lack of funding and rising transportation costs. Our two calls for action are: contact your local congressman. Speak with them about repealing certain parts of this act, because it is hurting the same people it's supposed to help. Furthermore, what's the price of a child's life? $100? $200? Well, to transport 25 kids to Attica, it costs about that much. Please invest in our youth's future by donating to your community's youth centers, churches, or schools. It's a future that we can't spell without you. Men like us are the best positive example to these young adults of where negative behavior and poor decisions will land them. We believe that prevention is the cure to keeping future generations from adding to the over 2 million incarcerated in America. Mass incarceration and young adults being sentenced to serve more time in prison than they've been alive, it's everyone's problem. You can be a huge part of the solutions by being active. Our motto is, it takes a village to raise a child. In the theme of healthy living, let's come together as one large village and help our future. Thanks for listening.
Great job, fellas. I'm sure people do not envision, when they think about prison, the incarcerated and officers working side by side for the betterment of our youth. But may this be an example that we can accomplish a lot more together than we can apart. Our next presenter, he was a little mysterious to me at first. But after our first conversation, he made a lasting impact on me. There will be people in our lives, for whatever reason, that we will always remember. He is one of them for me. Please welcome Mr. Edwards.
On June 4th, 2018, I walked into work like it was any other day. I came in, picked up my keys, checked in with the captain, and started walking down the hallway back to the academic school. As soon as I got in the hallway, my vision started to blur. My vision blurred, I got dizzy, I had to lean up against the wall to support myself. Security staff responded and escorted me over to the facility hospital. When I got to the facility hospital, my blood pressure was 160 over 100, my heart rate was 110 beats per minute, and I was sweating profusely, something Sergeant Bell unfortunately found out for himself as he put his arm around me to escort me into the hospital. I had shooting pains down both of my arms, classic heart attack symptoms. When waiting for the ambulance, my blood pressure calmed down a little bit, heart rate started to subside. By the time I got to the hospital, everything was completely normal. EKG, CT scan, blood work, all normal. The doctor walked in and said, "Mr. Edwards, I think you most likely had a panic attack." I was embarrassed. I was mortified. I don't get panicked. I'm a man. I work in a maximum security correctional facility. I've got ice flowing through my veins. I am the portrait of calm under pressure. Look at this beard. I'm a man. Six-pack abs, rugged chiseled features, Adonis reborn. Now, obviously, most of that isn't true. The truth is that I get affected by anxiety as much as anybody else, but as studies suggest, probably even more so. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody in this room, but literally every human being associated with incarceration is more likely to be affected negatively by mental health issues. For incarcerated individuals, 23% will have a major depressive disorder and suffer from higher rates of suicide, mortality, self-harm, and anxiety. For those of us that work in prison, 1 in 6 will have a major depressive disorder. 1 in 5 will abuse alcohol. And we commit suicide at a rate higher than any other profession combined. 50% of us will have some form of anxiety disorder. Think about that. It's heavy. Those statistics are heavy. Whether staff or inmate alike, what we need to realize is that we all physically exist inside of this place together, and the effects on our minds and bodies are significant. So let's talk about anxiety for a minute. The statistics I said before said 50% of the people associated with incarceration will have some form of anxiety disorder. But we don't really talk about it in prison. I made those jokes before about being a man, but outside of this place, I don't act particularly macho. I don't try to come off with this false sense of bravado. But inside of here, there is this sense of agro-masculinity that just seeps into you. This thing that tells you that if you let your walls down even for a second, people are going to see your weaknesses and they're going to try to exploit them. It makes me feel like I can't tell my coworkers that, yes, some days I'm nervous walking into this place. That's true. It makes me feel like I can't tell the officers I work with that outside of here, if I hear shouting or a door slams unexpectedly, my chest tightens right up. It makes me feel like I can't tell my boss that crowds bother me now when they never did before. Like, what would they think of me? Would I still be fit to work here? Like, the anxiety that this place takes on our bodies is significant. And if you don't find a release or an outlet for that anxiety, your body will literally find one for you. For me, that manifested in a panic attack, a physical release of my body for all the anxiety and stress that I had built up in my system. So what I'm going to share with you today are some strategies. Okay? Unfortunately, there's no cure-all, no quick fix, no panacea for anxiety. What works for some don't work for others. The first thing that I chose to do is I go see a counselor now. People don't talk about it. It has a stigma. But I see a counselor. You know what we talk about? None of your damn business. And that's the point. A counselor is someone completely removed from your situation, someone who can view your situation objectively and can give you legitimate strategies and advice on how to handle your anxiety. Now, I realize for me, as a staff member, it's easier to seek out counseling than an inmate, someone who's incarcerated. But for me, in my opinion, and I'm not a professional, the best counseling doesn't always have to come from a professional. I get counseling regular from friends, family, and coworkers. Sometimes, for me, the best counseling comes from a 22-pound dog named Seamus. Yep. Oh, look at him. He doesn't even know what an applause break is. I'm going to tell him to get one. He always listens, he never complains, and he just tries to kiss me when it's all over. But the thing about it is you need someone objective to talk to you about that anxiety, because if you can't talk about what's actually bothering you, what's actually inside your head, you're not getting that necessary release, and it's a necessity working in this place. The next thing are hobbies. A lot of people exercise. Obviously, that's not working out for me. But what I will say is I have hobbies that really worked out for me, but I don't want to intimidate anybody here with them. My hobbies are sophisticated. They're highbrow. You have to be intelligent. And I don't want to leave anybody in the dust when I describe them, so try to follow along with me. The first thing I do is I play video games. This may seem childish to some, but video games for me offer a very necessary and important form of release. They give me a distraction from the rigors, from the present, from everyday life. For some people, this comes in the form of reading a book, or watching movies, or journaling, exercise, doing artwork, whatever. Having a distraction from the present is important, and even more so in this place. What I've found is that we don't often take the necessary time to check out of our own lives because we're so worried about everything going on around us. For me, that checkout is video games. Now, some of you laugh, some of you might think it's childish, but once I started openly talking about playing video games in this place, people came out of the woodwork to talk to me about games. You'd be surprised how many people play them. I remember one day I walked into work, I was walking down the corridor back to my area, and a rather large officer waves me over to him, and he's kind of looking over his shoulder both ways, says he needs to talk to me, and I got nervous. I'm like, something wrong? Did I screw something up? And he leans in real close and whispers, he's like, hey Brian, do you play Pokemon? Because I need somebody to trade with. And I was like, whatever, nerd, and I kept walking. No, of course, yeah, it's be open about who you are. It's important. Another hobby of mine that really works for me is cross-stitching. I cross-stitch. Not exactly something you would associate as a manly thing to do, but it really works to center me. Following a cross-stitch pattern brings me a sense of peace. It silences the noise that occupies all of our minds. Sometimes I combine my love of video games and cross-stitching into a 1-2 punch of anxiety and ass-kicking relief right there. See that? Look at those guys. Right there. That's from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Any nerds out there? Over there? Yeah. It might seem ridiculous to some, but I was afraid to talk about this for years. Talking about anxiety to me feels dirty. We're engineered to not do it. To me, it feels like you're complaining that your caviar is too cold or that Audi you just bought is too expensive. In here, we're engineered to think, oh, you got a case of the worries? Let me get you a tissue. But the reality is that all of us are affected by this and we just don't like talking about it. Whether it's a sense of masculinity or a sense of wanting to seem together in a place like this, or just being embarrassed about the things that you have going on, we don't like talking about it. What I challenge everyone here to do is if you live, work, or volunteer in a correctional facility is to talk openly about the anxiety you have. You're gonna find that not only will you get help, which is good, but you're gonna see the people around you start to get help too. Ever since I started talking about it, I've seen people that I've referred to go see counseling, to go get help. Now they are referring people to see counseling and get help. They are talking about their anxiety and more people are coming to talk about it. Ironically, the only surefire way to become more comfortable with yourself is to talk about the things that make you uncomfortable. Take that, talk to somebody about their anxiety, and try to make somebody else a little happier. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mr. Edwards. And you painted a great picture of how prison does not just affect the incarcerated, but ultimately everyone. I once heard that when your actions speak louder than your words, that's when you're saying something. Our next presenter doesn't say much, but his actions are that of genuineness and the upliftment of others, choosing rather to walk the walk and not solely talk it. Please, let's welcome Mr. David Woodrow.
Thank you. Good morning. This is for my people in the prisons of the mind, in the cities, suburbs, ghettos, hoods, countrysides, whether in America or Jamaica, dispersed to the four corners of the world, who are suffering all over. Pay attention. I need you to hear me. The treasure I've found in Attica Minds is the word that resurrected me to life, to fly high like the bird, sober like the angel, yet so high like the eagle, majestic like the lion, yet humble and regal. In the image of the Most High, yet fashioned as a man. I'm a shepherd, a captain, and I'm also the lamb. The treasure I've found is the power of thought, the mind's true wealth that can never be bought. The wealth I possess is the healthy, thin king, so potent, so loyal, the royal crown and the ring. The treasure I've found is the rod and the staff, the dance of King David, the first and the last. The wealth I possess is faithful and true, integrity and love for me and for you. The treasure I've found is Blood Diamond 79, the atomic number of gold that rises and shines. The wealth I possess is the philosopher's stone, the alchemical secret called Peggy McComb. It changes the curse to the blessing, the lead into gold. It turns suffering to lessons and makes diamonds from coal. I was made who I am from heat, pressure, and time. Underground was my birthplace in these Attica mines, purified like pure gold from the furnace refined, hard but precious like a diamond, so brilliantly shined. My thoughts are my blessing. My words are my gift. To heal, to set free, to feed and uplift. To educate the people and resurrect them to life. To make peace out of war and change darkness to light. I've made it to heaven. My mind is set free. My body must follow. This is law, universally. And now that I made it, I will never look back. Everyone is welcome. White, red, yellow, brown, black. Your color is not the issue. Our tissue is all one. We can all rise and shine. The victory is won. There's only one rule. Seek and you'll find. I'll give you a clue what it is. You must change your mind. The healthy thin king is in the building. So now it is time to cleanse your thoughts, your words, and get your actions in line. So don't fear the fire that purifies and refines. You'll come forward as pure gold, atomic number 79, so bright like a diamond, cut, polished that shines. You and I are treasures, assets, profitable, each and every one of a kind. This is the healthy tin king, man, straight out of Attica mines. Scare wealth, you know, make wealth, you know. The treasure I've found is my mind. I am the healthy, thin king, straight out of Attica mines. Blessed love from above, enter into the rest, to all Attica's best bless. Rod and staff Kelley is a trumpet blast. Check the arts and the crafts now, man. Attica Mines' art is the craft of taking what once was trash and turning it to treasure. Some empty bags of chips transformed into a jewelry box and other such precious gifts. Some Irish Spring soap and pencils from the prison store transformed into a ship. But wait, there's more. The colors black, yellow, and green that you see in this picture here come from cigarette ash, a mustard pack, and an empty box of Irish Spring soap, wet and smeared. These recreational, and military vehicles were created from a file folder, quite plain and simply. In Attica Minds, we use what we have, our minds, to craft such art, such as pictures, paintings, greeting cards, books, plays, and other intellectual assets. The healthy thin king means businessman. I mean literally a businessman. Peace, love, and profits from the Attica Minds. Thank you.
That was amazing, that artwork. And I guess his message is pretty clear. What someone may deem as trash is often another's treasure. And I left out, he doesn't say much because he's way too cool. You see how cool Smooth he is. Smooth guy right there. Anyone have a person in your life that, even though they're not family, they feel like it? Well, this individual is that to me. He's an extraordinary man, and words cannot describe how proud I am of him. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Roland Murphy.
Please picture a 6-year-old boy who, like most boys his age, is a complete mama's boy. One night, while his mother is bathing, she calls out to him and instructs him to bring her a plastic bag. The boy readily obliges her, as he always tries to do anything he can to help his mother. Now imagine the horror he feels when moments later, he sees his mother's body lying limp in the bathtub with that same plastic bag that he had given her over her head. Never would he have helped her that night had he known he'd be assisting her in an attempt to commit suicide. And although my mother survived, I couldn't help but to ask myself, why? And why is a commonly asked question amongst friends and family members after a loved one has committed such an act. Why would they do such a thing? Why didn't they say anything? Why didn't I see this happening? For those of us who found ourselves asking this exact question, I can only assume that we like to believe that we could have done or said something in order to prevent such a horrific act from happening. And sadly, that may be true. But ultimately, the one thing that can prevent a person from doing so on their own is the feeling of hope. And when I came to prison in 2003, I didn't feel that hope. And I thought suicide would be the solution to my problems. I felt it would alleviate the sense of shame and the guilt that I felt from taking someone else's life, help me to avoid the potential fate of having to serve more time in prison than I've been alive, and also to eliminate all thoughts and feelings of never again being able to live a meaningful and purposeful life. I was at my lowest point, but it was the pounding of my heart that stopped me from following through on that act. But still, living with those thoughts and feelings seemed to be impossible. But since that moment, thanks to a friend giving me a typewriter, it has been through typing that has really helped me to deal with such thoughts and feelings, as I will oftentimes type just to relieve my frustration. Now, ironically, in doing so, I found myself even more frustrated at times because I was so horrible at typing. It was largely due to the fact that I would type fast because I was concerned with trying to sound like a professional who could type out 100 words a minute, but I wasn't. In fact, I probably made 100 mistakes a minute. But nonetheless, the mistakes that I made didn't matter as much because the letters I typed would never reach their intended recipients, let alone see the light of day. And on this particular day, I was typing out my response into a woman who had told me that being married would be impossible. And as I read over the response, I noticed I misspelled the word impossible, and it read as, I'm possible. Now, I believe that this is one of the few instances where being a horrible typist has its advantages, because this typing error allowed me to see the word impossible differently. And this was kind of a big deal, being that that word has been associated with so many negative experiences of my life, including those that made me want to give up. But there was something about seeing the words, I'm possible, although grammatically incorrect, that made me feel as if giving up isn't an option, and life is always worth living despite how bad things may appear to be. So I now associate the words I'm possible with the amazing experience of my life and refer to them as I'm possible moments, simply because I'm possible of turning the seemingly impossible into a golden opportunity, as long as I don't give up. And this is something that everyone can do. And despite my circumstances, I've been fortunate enough to experience quite a few I'm possible moments, including giving this talk. But perhaps the most noteworthy one I've experienced this far has been the meeting of my beautiful and lovely wife, Renee, and getting married in 2014. Thank you. My baby. This woman's presence in my life has been completely euphoric. So imagine how excited I was when she revealed to me in June of 2016 that she was pregnant with our child. Wow. Let me tell you, I was thrilled. I always wanted to be a father. However, the joy I felt was short-lived when a few weeks later, doctors suggested that my wife, who has congestive heart failure, that she should terminate the pregnancy because it'd be impossible for her to survive the birth, and our child's life would be in danger as well. My wife and I essentially had to make a life or death decision, and we chose life. And as a result, on December 9th, 2016, our 9-pound, 11-ounce baby boy was born. Oh, and by the way, my wife survived the birth as well. I believe that this I'm possible moment best illustrates what happens if we don't give up and we choose life. Case in point, had I given up in 2003, I wouldn't be able to experience the endless joy that my family brings me today. There are approximately 1 million people worldwide who commit suicide a year. That's almost one suicide a death every 40 seconds. Sadly, these individuals would never be able to experience the plentiful I'm possible moments that life has to offer. Sadly, there are countless others who are either struggling with the thoughts of such act or has already attempted to do so, as people are in desperate need of the feeling of hope that will inspire them to live and remind them that they have a purpose for doing so, despite the impossible moments of trauma, adversity, depression, and hopelessness that they're facing. And I can't help but to think of a young lady who attended our youth assisted program and who was dealing with the impossible moments of her life. And I would now like to read a response that she sent just a few weeks after attending our session. And it reads, I know that I didn't ask any questions during this trip, but I would like to say thank you for these conversations we had. I was really affected by the suicide conversation because that is something that I have dealt with for about 9 to 10 years of my life. I had a horrible childhood growing up that affected me physically and mentally. I tried to get help so many times and it never worked. But hearing someone say that I'm worth it and meant for great things really meant a lot to me. I grew up in a really bad home where my parents fought 24/7 and my dad constantly put me down about myself. After years of this, I tried to take my life a few times but failed. I stopped trying to get help because no one understood my situation or the trauma I faced growing up. But for a small second, that conversation we had made me feel the smallest bit of hope in which I haven't felt in a long time. So thank you all for everything. This young lady was in need of the feeling of hope. So I shared with her what I felt the night I decided to give up. It was a feeling that reminded me we have purpose and we should always choose life. And I would now like to share with everyone what that hope was by asking everyone to please place a hand over their hearts. Do you feel that? You know what that's called? It's called our purpose. It's a reminder that we're alive for a reason. Our heartbeat is the hope that we could feel each and every day that should inspire us to live and never give up. Truth is, if what we're going through hasn't caused our heart to stop beating, then neither should we. We must continue to love ourselves and love life. In fact, the next time we're faced with an impossible situation and we're thinking about giving up, we should place a hand over our heart. Be reminded that we have purpose and say to ourselves, I'm possible. Thank you.
Wow, I'm possible. And what a reminder, if you ever needed one, that not only are you possible to overcome life's many challenges, but that you can soar well beyond them. This next presenter has a unique desire for sci-fi, an outspoken love for games, and a kind of quirky passion for data. There's no doubt Cool Colin is one of a kind. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Colin Rideout.
Waking up can be hard. I'm probably not alone in feeling a certain resentment towards alarm clocks. Now, imagine how you might feel to wake up each morning and see the sun rise on the far side of a barred window. In those first few moments of consciousness, I've experienced everything from helpless rage to crushing loneliness, and that's before the day even gets started. It's said that life is a cruel teacher who gives the test first and the lesson second. Mark Twain reportedly said that education is what's left after we've forgotten everything we learned in school. And I would add that wisdom seems to be what's left after we've failed the tests life throws at us. There's a prayer which goes, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I may not be especially wise, but I do feel that I've developed some insight into what it is we can and can't control in life. The upside of being deprived of the normal agency over my life is that I was forced to focus very narrowly on the things within my control. Many of us operate with an illusion of control over our lives, feeling like we can plan everything out. That illusion is easily shattered by a car crash, a sudden illness, or in my case, being thrown into prison and losing almost all control over the conditions of my life. Some expert climbers talk about staying in a 3-foot world, focusing only on the next set of handholds. Now, I would point out the graph search problems associated with only considering adjacent nodes, but life probably can't be solved with an algorithm yet. Each of us can only act in this particular moment, and often frustratingly, we can't control or even necessarily anticipate the actions of everyone around us. I began to learn this as a coxswain in high school and college. While technically I was in charge of the boat, I could only turn the rudder. Everything else depended on either the rowers in my boat or the crews of the other shells on the water. It's only in hindsight that I began to appreciate what profound lessons I might have learned. No matter how detailed your race plan, you can't stop other boats from drifting into your lane or blocking you on a turn. The success of the boat depends on the efforts and choices of others, not just yourself. One lesson life only bothers to teach after you've failed the test is that sometimes nothing you say or do can change someone else's feelings. My engagement fell apart in the months after I came to prison, ending a 7-year relationship I had thought would last the rest of my life. Accepting that my fiancé's feelings had changed was a very hard lesson, but one which highlighted what I was able to control versus what was in the hands of others. I learned a lot growing up as the oldest of 7 children. Few things in life are more frustrating than seeing a younger sibling take their life in a harmful direction. You may offer advice, you may yell at them, you may even try to put in some of the work for them, but ultimately, you can only set the example. Other people have to help themselves first. I've also realized, in the immortal words of Cool Hand Luke, that there's some people you just can't reach. I experienced this with a kid I met when I entered the county jail following trial. Without going into excessive detail, he had some substance abuse issues and some anger problems, but also a 2-year-old son. And when I met him, my older brother instincts kicked in, and I encouraged him to take advantage of an opportunity he had to complete a drug treatment program instead of a prison term. Unfortunately, he attempted suicide and was hospitalized. Well, I wrote him a letter the next day, trying to offer support and encouraging him to focus on his son. And it seemed to me that he could chart a course forward by completing the treatment program and finding a healthy outlet for his negative emotions. As a disclaimer, I'm in no way professionally qualified to dispense advice on handling mental health issues, but to my reasoning, the solution seemed relatively straightforward. Instead, he returned from the hospital and proceeded to barter borrowed property as collateral for drugs, running up numerous debts before signing into protective custody to avoid repayment. That was the last I ever saw of him. I felt like I'd failed him, but was also offended that he had apparently ignored my attempt to help and made zero effort to help himself. It was some time before I was able to accept that I could only extend a hand to help. He had to live his own life and make his own choices. I find that running is very useful in training myself to focus only on the things within my immediate control. It's simpler than rowing and can be done just about anywhere, except zero gravity. When I run, initially 1,000 thoughts buzz through my mind, whether Tyrion should sit the Iron Throne, or if that yelling was the start of a fight breaking out. And after a mile or two, those thoughts fade into the background, and running becomes a form of meditation for me. Brandon Sanderson wrote that the most important step in a journey is not the first, but always the next step. This is a poignant expression of where the limit of our control truly lies. Each of us can only take the next step, reach for the next handhold, make a conscious decision in this moment, because the past is immutable and the future unknowable. Limits are often perceived as holding us back, but the most creative solutions are the result of working within the constraints of a given problem. The benefit of being deprived of normal agency over my life is that I was forced to focus very narrowly on my internal state of mind, on my responses to the factors outside my control. Mark Devine's practice of a mind sentinel, or cognitive checkpoint, is very useful for this. I adapted the practice to my personal philosophy, which resembles less of an ideal Platonic form and more of a hoarder's basement. It consists of actively listening to my internal dialogue, the thoughts which shape my self-perception, and consciously choosing which ones to internalize and which ones to reject. While performing this examination, I find that most sources of stress are beyond my control, and I'm able to act with more purpose and intention in each moment. I think of these decision points as opportunities for 1% wins, tiny steps which compound over time, much the way the sun gradually lightens the sky each morning on the other side of that barred window. On that note, my call to action is simple. It has to do with how you begin the day tomorrow. The military advocates that you start by making your bed properly, but I've found it's impossible to put hospital corners on a prison cot. Instead, I choose to begin the day by consciously smiling. It isn't always easy, and initially feels ridiculous. But there's a strong feedback loop between the mind and body, and gradually, my smile stops feeling forced and becomes genuine. When I begin the day with this affirmative act of willpower, I find it's easier to perceive the limits of my own agency, to focus on the choices I do have, and to ignore external sources of stress. I would encourage each of you to try it for yourself first thing tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Colin. And by the way, no Tyrion should not sit the Iron Throne. Jon Snow should. He's the rightful heir to the throne. I mean, come on. So everyone enjoying themselves so far? Okay, great, great. We got a lot more in store for everyone. But we are going to give everybody an opportunity to use the restroom, stretch your legs a little bit, and even do a little bit more mingling. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and ask everybody to be back in their seats in 15 minutes.